Hello and welcome back to playerpredicted.com. We're going to do something a little bit different now because this has become a conversation really that we've been having back and forth, and I suppose it's indicative really of the prediction game. And myself and Sean here, as you can see, Sean O Sullivan in his flying colours. How many All-Ireland medals again? Just get this out of the way first. How many?
Four, Jonathan. Four,
Okay,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you scored a goal against Galway, did you?
Yeah, I scored a goal against Galway. You like to
Okay.
bring that one up, yeah,
I do,
yeah.
do. That
Back in
broke my
long
heart.
time ago now. Yeah,
That
long time
broke
ago.
my heart. I didn't know you at that stage, but you're probably just as well. I didn't. No, Sean, thanks very much. We've been having a bit of crack really back and forth with the obviously the football leagues were back last weekend, and we had a bit
hmm
of crack with the prediction game, which you can get on playerpredict.com. Just go down there, and the Premier League is getting a lot of the attention as well because everybody's into the Premier League as well. But there is a competitions as well for the football league and the hurling league, and the championship when it will return. So bit of crack there. We've been having a good bit of crack this week. We'll get it out of the way straight away as well. Sean, you picked me this week as well.
Just pipped you. I think I predicted one more win than you, Jonathan. Did I? Is
Yeah,
that
you
that
did.
right?
Yeah, so I'm on four. Yeah, I suppose indicative really of the Galway performance, half there. So, but
Yeah,
we just said we'd come on board. I have to say it was a good bit of crack watching the scores back and forth. You can join along. We might try and get some more competition set up as well, where we can get a group of people involved in a couple of WhatsApp groups or whatever, because it is a bit of fun, and God knows we all need a bit of cheering up at the moment, don't we? A distraction
absolutely.
really.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose, look, with the debate raging on as whether or not these games should be taking place, I suppose, that was parked last weekend with the games coming back. And for, the GAA supporter out there who has had we've all had a difficult 2020, but particularly with the games being stopped, it was great to see them back from a supporter's point of view. And obviously with us having our little personal battle on the prediction, it made it all that more interesting. But there was some good games out there. There's some good football played, considering that these guys, didn't play for since last March. I have to say there were some very, very good performances from what I saw. So it'll be interesting to see now going forward how obviously this weekend's games transpire, with a few things riding on possibly league titles and relegations. So yeah, it's interesting. But look, it's great to have it back once it's being done safely, Jonathan. I think that's what everybody's worried about. Everybody wants the games back once the protocols and everything is being done safely.
Yeah, that's the thing, really, and I guess we're. There's no point in saying it. I know personally as well, and I'm sure I almost speak for you as well. We're both sports obsessed. We're both sports addicts. It's 80-90% of our conversations, and that may be a sad reflection of us. But that's let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
Away from family life and whatever, sport takes up the biggest, I suppose, proportion really in terms of discussion as well. So it was good to actually have some live sport to talk about it, as opposed to should this continue? Is this going to continue? And even midweek as well, we saw kind of late in the day the under 20s final being pulled, and the upcoming minor under 17 championship as well. So it's just strange, isn't it? It's I know you've been outspoken in a little bit. You have your beliefs. Everybody seems to have an opinion at the moment, I suppose. The key thing really is if it can be done in a safe environment, that's paramount, really, isn't it? Because in an ideal world we have sport, but we can't. There's no point having sport if it puts people at risk. We can't have GA players being pawns as entertainment for us. Don't get me wrong, we really enjoy the games, but their safety has to be high up in the list as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, I have written in my piece for the Kerry Man and spoken about it. I'm a football man, Jonathan. I played the game. I still play the game for my club. I write about the game, and recently with the games going behind closed doors, I was commentating on the games for Kerry GA. So I, as much as anyone, want to see the games go ahead. But what worries me is the little bits and pieces you have coming out of squads about testing possibly not being at the where it should be. We see cases now coming out in different county squads, and that worries me, and that's me coming from an ex-player's point of view. Now, look, the players obviously did their survey with the GPA. The common consensus from them seems to be that they want to play the games, and why wouldn't they? They've been starved of football for a long time this year. So I think the most important thing is that the testing is done right, it's done regularly, and that we keep these players as safe as possible. And from the other side of it is that these games, with teams traveling around the country, long distances in some cases, that it doesn't lead to a spike in more cases, because if that happens, then it's possibly going to end up with everything being called off, you would think. So look, we'll stay positive. It's great to have them back. As I say, as you said, safety is paramount, and it's everybody. It's the players, it's the managements, it's the officials. We all want the games to go ahead so we can enjoy them between here and Christmas. But once they're being done safely, that's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's the key. And I think it's important to stress as well, like people always draw the comparisons, the Premier League is going ahead, or the League of Ireland is going ahead, or Pro 14 is going ahead, or whatever varies. But particularly in the case of the Premier League, you're not comparing like with like there. They are professional people in a bubble relatively. And the sad reality is, I don't want to come across too doom and gloom, and I hadn't intended talking a bit for this length about it, but those players, particularly in the Premier League clubs, are in bubbles. Excuse me. They're away from pretty much society. They come in, do their games. They've the strictest testing going, and then many of the clubs will have their tests. There's still cases in there, so you would have a little bit of concern straight away, where your GAA player will be going back to his parents, might live with his grandparents in the house, or might have day-to-day life. Is it I think that the Louth captain came to prominence during the week as well, saying he's a teacher and he's going into the class, etc. So there is, I suppose, concerns to be had. The key is if we can get this in a safe environment. If we can have sport in a safe environment, that's the ideal solution, really, isn't it? Get us by this.
Exactly. And look, I understand that GAA intercounty players are regarded as, in these circumstances, as elite players. And believe me, I've been inside in that intercounty bubble for a long time, and it's only gone to a different level since I've left. They're elite in every sense of the word, in terms of their preparation, their training, how they look after themselves. But unfortunately, where they're not elite is when you compare it to a professional sport, as you've just said, Jonathan, professional soccer across the water, rugby. Unfortunately, these guys can't do that. They, after they played their games on the weekend, they went back into the classroom as teachers. They went back into banks as bank officials. Some of them went back into the college environment. So, that's the major difference. And unfortunately, because this bloody virus is so infectious, that's the problem we have. And now, if the testing is being done correctly, and those players are being tested every time they arrive at their county squad training, and they're tested again after, which I don't know is happening, to be honest with you. And I think this is maybe where players need to stand up and speak out. The Louth captain, obviously, after the Cork game at the weekend, he was very honest and open about how he hasn't seen any testing, or they haven't been tested. Is that just a once-off case, or is it an indictment of the whole country? We don't know, because we're not hearing from the players. But look, if they're happy, and at the bottom line, Jonathan, you said at the start, the players are who we're going to be watching. The players are the ones putting on the show. If they're comfortable, if they're happy within each individual county, that they feel safe, that they're in a safe environment to train and play, then we've got to take them at their word, because at the end of the day, these guys are grown men, they're intelligent. If they felt any way unsafe, I'm sure they'd be speaking out, and they wouldn't be doing it. So long may that continue. Our worry is, and I think my biggest worry is going forward, and we've seen it now already, and I know we've gone on a little bit long about this, and we said we wouldn't, but teams giving walkovers because of COVID, forfeits. If that starts to happen in the championship, that would be very, very disappointing. I think it would dilute it. Somebody said to me on social media recently that it wouldn't make any difference. You'd still get a Celtic Cross medal, at the end of December, whenever the finals are being played. And I understand that, and then All Ireland is important, and it's lovely to get whatever way you get it. But I just feel that if you're getting it through walkovers and forfeits, it just takes a bit of the gloss off it. For me personally, that's my opinion. Going back to your point about the under-17s and the under-20s being called off, I think the GAA could have done that a bit better. The Limerick minor hurling manager has spoken about it, Diarmuid Mullins. Very disappointed that it was done so late in the day. I know even down here in Kerry, James Costello, the Kerry minor manager, announced his panel and his captain on Tuesday, and Wednesday morning we got the news that the whole thing was called off and postponed until when, we don't know. So that came very out of the blue, which I can only imagine for managements and players must have been very disappointing. But it's the times we find ourselves in, Jonathan, unfortunately. And, you know, my biggest worry is that, you know, games being called off due to COVID are going to become a common occurrence. And if that leads into championship games, does it just take the thrill and the magic away from the championship? I feel it would.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because it's already a championship. Even if you could bypass the huge pandemic that is COVID, having an intercounty championship after such a break, at this time of year, with no crowds, you know, it's already a strange scenario. You add in kind of missing players, because I think the reality is, and this is, I really hope I'm wrong, but I cannot see how we can avoid it given the levels of cases ongoing and how the cases are spreading so widespread, that we're going to be in a situation where a big team is going to miss a big player or maybe two players because of COVID. Either they might directly have the virus themselves, or they might be deemed a close contact, etc. Even look at the Ireland set up in the playoff, which Stephen Kenny still seems to be very irate about, because he's missing two of his, you know, best young strikers really, and he's a guy that's, I suppose, not fighting for his position but trying to stamp his authority on the international scene, and he's had to do without two of his better players. That's probably going to happen in the championship as well. So it's going to be a season like never before really. I think even if everything does go to plan and we do get the whole completion of the tournament, I think it's still going to be things we never saw before really.
Absolutely, there'll be highs and lows, and look, you're hoping against hope that we can get through it. I understand people's points that once the championship kicks off, and obviously because it's a knockout situation, that a lot of the teams are going to be gone early on anyway. You know what I mean? And there won't be as much games, and there won't be as much interaction. So look, we'll cross our fingers and toes that everybody will be safe until then, that we do get All-Ireland finals in all codes: hurling, football, camogie, ladies football, the whole lot. We'd love to see it once it's done safely and everybody comes out of it, you know, intact and in health. That's the bottom line. But, you know, it's just been an awful year, Jonathan. So look, hopefully we end on a positive note and we do get these championships completed. Anyway, let's talk about football.
Let's get ready to rumble. That actually was completely off the cuff. I said to myself, we won't get into it too much. But there we go. It's a reflection of the times, really, isn't it?
Well, it is, and you even find yourself at home, you know, purposely. Even myself, and my wife here, we purposely try and not talk about it, you know. But it's just part of our everyday life at the moment. Once you try and stay positive and not get too bogged down in it, you know, which where, you know, us being sports comes into it and helps as well, you know.
Absolutely. So let's look we'll take a little kind of review really of the weekend by. We're not going to get them into too depth because I think everybody has gone through the games already. We just want to have a bit of crack back and forth and have a quick skim over it. I suppose the first one we'll talk about is Monaghan versus the 2020 elect champions. Is that's what you told me during the week, wasn't it? It's not the people in Kerry are saying.
Did I say all Ireland elect or league elect? I said all Ireland elect.
Kerry were very good.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd say very good. They were efficient. They were. I finished watching the Merseyside derby and I flicked on my GAA Go to watch it, Monaghan and Kerry on Saturday. I have to say I was very impressed with Kerry defensively. You know, it's no secret that Kerry's Achilles heel, I suppose, in the last few seasons has certainly been probably at the back. We've been conceding goals. We've find it difficult to play against a direct team of runners, particularly down through our centre. So it was very, very interesting to see how Kerry set up against Monaghan. Now, look, they'll have tougher tests down the road, there's no doubt about it. And it was their first game back, and it was Monaghan's first game back in a long time. But I liked the way Kerry protected their goal, protected their full back line. They filtered bodies back when they didn't have it. They shut down the space for the Monaghan forwards. Their cover was blown once or twice in the first half, but I think that came from just a little bit of lack of concentration rather than not having bodies back there. And they turned Monaghan over on numerous occasions. And the great thing to see was when they did that, they broke fast. And it's actually funny, the Kerry's defence actually ended up, their 2 cornerbacks scored and their 2 wing backs scored. They got a point each. So it just goes to show you, once they turned the ball over, they weren't resting on their laurels. They were attacking at pace. They've got skillful players all over the field, and their backs were able to contribute on the scoreline. So I wouldn't say it was a performance that blew me away. And I know we have the banter, but it wouldn't have me. I don't think it'd have Dublin or possibly Mayo quaking in their boots when they look back at it. But for us here in Kerry, we were happy with a lot of it. Particularly as well, the tantalising prospect of having an inside full forward line of David Clifford and Tony Brosnan. Tony Brosnan, a player who's been really, really chomping at the bit to get his chance with Kerry. He's been one of the most consistent club forwards down here for the last 3 or 4 years. Unfortunately, every time his Kerry chance came along, he had little setbacks, whether it be injury or whatever. But he's in there, played well the last day, got 3 points from play. Possibly one of those could have been a goal, if not 2. But the prospect of him teaming up with David Clifford is very exciting for us here. Darren Moynihan played in the corner wearing 15, but he got out of there to create space for the 2 lads. In fact, the whole interchanging of the Kerry forwards was interesting to see. So a positive win, and obviously sets them up on Saturday facing Donegal at home, knowing that if they win, because there's no league final, then they win the league on points. So it would be nice to get a bit of silverware considering the strange year that it is. But looking forward, it was a good start for Kerry, but they'd still have quite a bit to do before they face into Cork in the championship.
Yeah, you just can't I can't even see what the cap you're wearing, but it's definitely a Kerry cap there as well. Downplaying straight away. Did you ever hear it? I'm just winding you up. So I think that was the game we both got correct. I'm sure you didn't you didn't go for money on that one. You went for a Kerry win, did you?
No, I went for Kerry, yeah, because I suppose just hearing rumblings from their camp that things since they came back from lockdown have been going well. I thought they looked very fit. Not sure how much work Monaghan have done, but Kerry looked very strong, even though Monaghan did finish the game stronger. And Kerry were comfortable leading 17 points to 11 going into injury time, and Monaghan pegged on a few scores to bring it back to 17-14. I have to say Conor McManus looked very sharp when he came in at half time, but I mean, that guy is just, it was actually great to see 2 forwards at the top of their game, and McManus on one side and David Clifford on the other. They were just both excellent, and Monaghan will be a tough prospect for anybody. But I just felt Kerry just had that bit too much run on the day. So yeah, I went for a Kerry win in that one. You did too, I think. Did you?
I did, yeah. That was one that we both agreed on. I think another one that we both agreed on, we'll quickly run through them, was the Dublin. Again, the maybe the other contenders for the All-Ireland. Is that what you said? Excuse me. No, I think Meath were they have to be happy enough with that performance today. Now, I know it's ultimately going to be a defeat for them and are going to get relegated. But in terms of the restart and getting back, it's a decent showing.
Yeah, Meath have had a difficult league. Obviously, they've no win. But they can be very happy with that performance against Dublin. They pushed them all the way in Parnell Park as well. And bar, I suppose, a real poor goalkeeping error that led to Dean Rock's goal, then it could have been a lot tighter, So Meath will be happy. It's difficult. It's difficult in Leinster. It's very hard to see anyone putting it up to the Dubs and, in the championship. And Dublin will obviously take a lot from that outing from Meath, in terms of just getting back into the groove. But, if you're Jerry McEntee, you'll be quite happy with the performance. Meath will obviously be trying to get to a Leinster final if they can, but it's a difficult one, particularly now with no back door. Where their season will go is a hard one, but at least they can look back on that performance the last night and with a bit of pride and a bit of confidence going into the future. Goalkeeper is definitely an issue for them. I think he's gone through at least 10 or 11 goalkeepers in his tenure, which is not good, So that's an area that he's going to have to nail down if he's if he wants Meath to progress, because it's such an important position now, and it's just showed the last night a little bit of lack of concentration by the keeper, and it's in the back of the net before you know it. We both went for Dublin on that one, but we probably both thought Dublin would win by a lot more. So I suppose that's a good sign if you're from Meath, that they definitely pushed them to the pin of their collar, and they can take a lot of confidence from it.
There's definitely something to build from there from a Meath point of view. The other one that I don't have your predictions in front of you now, but you can tell me the one that I got done was kind of the I'm not sure what we call it, the pre-match Ulster Championship setup up north. Is the dummy teams, the dummy setup, the Tyrone Donegal. I fancy Tyrone in that. Donegal put on a bit of spark really, and what a 4-point victory in the end for them. But fascinating. So when you get that sort of a setup where teams are playing each other in the league and they know they're going to play each other in a couple of weeks' time, it's strange. Again, it's a year of strangers, but I found that one kind of fascinating coming into it.
Yeah, there probably was a little bit of shadow boxing, but I don't think there was a whole pile either. I think with Donegal coming to Tralee on Saturday, knowing that they're playing Tyrone the following weekend, I think Donegal will probably, knowing they're safe as well in the division, then I think Donegal will probably come and maybe rest players from the start or bring them in, or vice versa, maybe start them and take them off. I don't think Declan Bonner will be playing his full hand on Saturday, which might be good news for Kerry, we don't know. But going back to that game, it was a difficult one, because as you said, you're not sure whether both teams wanted to show their full hand. Good game though. I know it was cat and mouse for a long time. It was like basketball game at times with both teams playing behind the ball and you attack, we attack, but it was good. There was some good patches in it. I was really impressed with Ryan McHugh from Donegal. I think I'm a big fan of his, Jonathan. I think he's just fantastic. I mean, his energy, his skill, he can play anywhere on the field. He's just a joy to watch. Michael Murphy still dictates things for Donegal. He was out around the middle. He was hopping off fellas. There was a great physical edge to the game, but he helped himself to 6 points as well. He's still their talisman, and they did all this as well without Paddy McBrearty as well. You have to take into account. So he'll probably be back come that Tyrone Championship game as well. Tyrone, Mickey Hart can be very happy with Conor McKenna, the man back from Australia, back from the Essendon Bombers. Got a goal and 2 points and was a real focal point in their attack. So that's a plus, particularly with Colin McShane out for the year. So he's a big plus for Tyrone. But obviously, when it comes to that championship game in 2 weeks' time, the heat's going to be turned up, and it's going to be much more at stake, obviously. So, but Donegal can be happy. They got their points. They're safe now in Division 1 for another year. Tyrone are still, they're still flirting with relegation, so they've a big one at the weekend, which Mickey Hart will obviously be hoping they come through, and because you want to stay in Division 1, that's where you want to stay. Dropping down to Division 2, even though there are some good quality teams down there, you want to be at the top table of league football. And if Tyrone were to go down, it would be a real, downer for, pardon the pun, downer for Mickey Hart and co. So they'll be hoping to come through this weekend.
Perfect. Now, I just want to quickly run through the rest of them, because I do want to get our predictions, and I'm going to put you on the spot so you can start thinking in the back of your head there. I've just decided halfway through this, I think we're going to do our predictions on air here as well. So just so there's no, you already have yours done, so I'll do mine on air, and then we can compare them afterwards. But just to,
are you reviewing Galway and Mayo?
Did that game go on at the weekend?
You can't leave that.
I can't. I certainly can't. That's the next one I'm going to talk about here. Hands up. A horror show from start to finish, really. And I guess if you could pick one thing from the game that summarised when things aren't going to happen for you, it was Damien Comer being the relief and the excitement of seeing him put into the team. Probably to us was last minute, obviously was planned behind the scenes, you would imagine. He comes on in 3 minutes. He has to come off what looks like a hairy enough hamstring injury, so you would have to be, still waiting for a scan results and whatnot, but you'd have to be hugely concerned for his involvement in the championship, the upcoming championship. So look, we'll obviously wish him the best, but it is looking. And then Mayo were absolutely exceptional. They had the bit between their teeth. They looked flying fit. They played a beautiful brand of football. They tore Galway to bits in the half back line. They attacked. Moran was sensational at centre forward. They had Walsh played absolute havoc in and full forward. They had a nice blend between kicking it in and then winning everything inside, and then runners absolutely everywhere. I was hugely impressed with them and how aggressive they were defending Galway kickouts as well. They were just brilliant, and the scoreline didn't really flatter them. That's probably the most. I feel like a knife in my back saying that as a Galway person.
That's a tough one.
But they were sensational.
No, they were good. They were good. And like, people are, obviously Galway had their problems. Of course they did, and were poor on the day. The Damien Comer thing didn't help. No Shane Walsh either. Obviously, still waiting on him to see. I know you were saying to me on the phone the other day that he got fairly banged up in the Galway Intermediate Championship, so he's waiting on a few things to clear up. Mightn't see him at the weekend against Dublin either. Possibly wait for that first round of the championship against Sligo, isn't it? So, look, everything taken into account, Mayo were sensational. I have to say, they were absolutely flying. It was one of those days where everything just went right for them. They looked like guys who were playing for their place on the team. They had some excellent performances, particularly, as you mentioned, from Mark Moran on the 40, a newcomer to the team, a goal and 2 points. Just really, really good. The big thing for me, and everyone seems to be talking about it, is Aidan Shea at full forward. It's something that that Mayo have maybe looked at in years gone by, maybe when they've been chasing a game, or maybe early on in the game when they want to maybe get a few scores on the board, but they haven't done it consistently, and Aidan seems to drift out the field. It could be with the shortened season particularly. It could be something.
The conditions as well, I think, as well, that
conditions. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a huge man. He's got a great pair of hands. Physically, he's going to be very, very imposing. You could ask any fullback in the country if they saw Aidan Shea running in on top of you, you'd be like, geez, I'm in for a real long day here, depending on what type of quality ball he's getting in, of course. But I think Mayo just played him perfectly the last day. And the big thing for me with Aidan was, and obviously there's no fans in the stadium, I get that, but what he could add to the game is the scores. He's a guy who Mayo look to a lot for leadership, but when he's out around the middle, he rarely comes up with those big match scores or those big game-changing scores. Whereas if he's inside in the full forward line, and you can imagine, ball goes in, he wins it, he either calls a mark and kicks it over, or he wins it and takes on a guy and buries a goal. That's a huge I suppose boost for your side and for your team. And I think the Mayo people would love to see James Horton continue with Aidan Shea inside full forward. But certainly it was the performance of the weekend. I mean, 323 was just savage kicking. They seem to have a lot of guys, as I say, wanting the jersey for the championship game. They played very direct, very fast. They looked very... So Mayo people can be really, really excited about what's coming down the road for the rest of the year. And maybe, dare I say it, could this be Mayo's year at long last?
And we might have to end the call there right now. I'm just kidding. For anyone that isn't aware, as you can probably tell by Sean's jibbing there, I'm originally from literally right on the Mayo Galway border. So to say rivalry is intense is an understatement. And you can imagine I won't say battles, but you can imagine the debate back and forth over the years.
I wouldn't be too distraught if I'm a Galway supporter either, Jonathan, and I'm not trying to dress it up for you. But Padraig Joyce is a shrewd operator. He knows that he won't need any more motivation if Galway come through and it is a Galway Mayo. I'm not sure how the permutations are working in Connacht. Could they meet in a semi-final or a final? I'm not sure. But you can be sure that, well, Roscommon might have something to say about this, and Sligo and the rest of the teams in Connacht. But you'd assume if they can get to a Connacht final or semi-final, it's going to be Galway Mayo. You can be sure that Padraig Joyce will not need any motivation for his troops, regardless of what 15 Galway guys go on the field, whether Damien Comer is there or not, Shane Walsh and so on. Those guys will be hurting after that. So I'm sure the Galway training sessions over the next few weeks, he'll have no problem getting guys G'd up, and they'll be ready for Sligo, and hopefully they'll be hoping that they can catch or get another crack at Mayo. And put a few things right. So it's not the worst thing in the world. Maybe Galway needed that, and we all saw that they got a lot of press the week leading up to the game with a certain Donegal man back, helping them out in their sessions. So this might be ideal for Padraig Joyce and his management team. Just take the spotlight off them, and it's all gone on to Mayo now, which mightn't be the worst thing in the world if you're a Galway supporter. And Joyce will have them ready if they meet Mayo again, I'm sure.
Yeah, you certainly like to think so. I'm highly biased from that point of view, but I think there was a huge whirlwind. There was a kind of romantic nature really to I suppose, the perfect honeymoon period from Joyce came in. He said and did all the right things, and then they were in flying form, and then it was always going to be a little bit a readjust. Maybe it was the kick up the bum that they needed. We're first running out of time. I think that's by and large most of the talking points, unless there's anything else you want to discuss from the last game week. I want to get in and have the battle, unless there's anything you want to bounce out with there.
Well, it was just a result, I suppose, that we took notice of down here, and they'll be saying that it's not much to take notice of. But I have to look at Cork's league campaign. Obviously, they're our opponents in the Munster semi-final on the 8th of November, Jonathan. So I have to say, Cork, and this isn't the usual Kerry man trying to hype up Cork, but I mean, they put up a huge score against Louth. I understand Louth mightn't have been at their strongest, but of 5 goals and 19 points, I think it was in the end. So look, even though obviously Kerry will be a much more difficult opponent for Cork on the 8th of November, they've had a very good league campaign. Ronan McCarthy's doing good things down there. They're obviously back up. They've won the league at their ease, really. So it'll be interesting. There's some noises coming out of Cork. So I just had to make sure we acknowledge those before we move on.
This party political broadcast was brought to you in conjunction with. Right, let's look into the future. This will be what we'll be debating. What we'll be slagging each other. You have a 1 point lead at the moment over me. I believe you're the kid at the top of the class. You have your homework done. You're ready. You're banked in. You're ready to go. So why not put a bit of pressure on air on me, and we'll have a little bit of debate either. Because for the record, I have no idea what he picked. Because do you think that Kerry man would give me any of his tricks? There's no copying his homework. So we'll pull up to. I'm just going to fly over here to playerpredict.com. We're going to select the Alliance Football League, and we will look at the games available for our competition for round 7. So the first one here is Kildare versus Westmeath. Tricky enough one, and this is me just thinking out loud now. So tricky enough one. I'll fly through them as quick as I can. I think I will edge towards. I'll go for the maroon as well. So I'm going to go for Westmeath there.
Okay.
Then Clare and Armagh. That is a tricky one. Clare, I will two teams. Different. Let me see where I go. I'll run through them. I'll go for Clare as well. Why not? Then the big one for you guys on Saturday, Kerry versus Donegal. I don't think you can look at anything bar a Kerry home win there. Cavan and Roscommon. Roscommon, be interested to see. I know they have the positive case or whatever, so it's going to make things a little more. Mickey Graham's doing great stuff with Cavan as well. I lean towards Cavan. And then I will Fermanagh versus Laois. Probably have to lean towards Laois just given the circumstances in Fermanagh at the moment. Mayo and Tyrone should be a great game on Sunday. I'll probably lean towards Mayo to keep that momentum going and to save themselves. Monaghan and Meath, I think with Meath, although Meath had a great performance last week, given Monaghan's probably desire, and probably it's more worthwhile for them in terms of wanting it more for that old horrible old cliche. I think I'll go for Meath. And then this is an easy one. Galway Dublin. Look, it's an easy one, isn't it? Really, just go to the right of the screen here and just kind of slyly click Dublin on there before anyone at home lynches on me. So that's my save and predictions, and that's my name. So let's run through them. I'm not sure, do you have yours in front of you there? You probably can remember who you went with. Kildare Westmeath in your tip for here.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kildare. I thought they had a good performance last time out. Paddy Hyland was in fantastic form. Obviously, my former Kerry manager, Jack O'Connor, is trying to do his best up in Kildare to improve them, and he certainly has over the last while. So yeah, I went for Kildare to beat Westmeath. I just think they'll have too much for them on the day.
And then quickly on to the next one, Clare versus Armagh. I went for Clare. Did you go on to something similar?
No, I think I went to Armagh. I watched
Okay.
a good bit of the Armagh Roscommon game the other night. Good game. Roscommon caught Armagh for goals, and look, goals win games at the end of the day. But I was impressed with Armagh. I thought they played some good stuff. And even though Clare beat Fermanagh, we all know what's going on in Fermanagh at the moment. And I just think Armagh might just have too much for Clare on this one, Jonathan.
And then the big one from your point of view, Kerry versus Donegal. I think I know your choice here. This is an easy one for you, is it?
I've gone with Kerry. Look, obviously, not that I don't think home and away matters now with crowds and stuff, so not being there. So I've gone for Kerry basically from the point of view is that number one, I think they're obviously showed good form against Monaghan. Number two, they've got a few guys to come back into the panel, which will up the intensity during the week in training, fighting for places and so on with championships so close. Three, it's obviously a great opportunity for them to win a title. I know it's a strange year, but it would still go down as a Kerry League title, and we'll take it. We're mad about trophies down here, even though it's not the one we would desire every year, but we'll take it. And I think just my last point on it, number four, is with Donegal being safe and with their championship game next weekend against Tyrone, I can see Declan Bonner bringing a full squad to Tralee, playing a full team. So I think it falls into Kerry's barrel nicely, but Kerry need to still turn up and win the game. But I think they will. Okay.
Next one then is Cavan Roscommon. I went for Cavan. Who did you go for?
I went for Roscommon. Now,
okay.
I had put my predictions in obviously before a little
okay.
bit of news
broke
of course, from Roscommon.
You do have the facility here. I think it's up to a couple of hours before the first game where you can change
right.
it. I'll find out.
Change it, yeah.
So you do have, obviously that's kind of a bit of news that probably changes the lay of the land a good bit.
Yeah, and depending on who Roscommon are missing, they're still saying they're going to fulfil the fixture, but they might not have a full outfit. So I went with Roscommon based on their performance against Armagh. I thought they worked they worked their goals well. I know they got a couple of penalties, but they got into some great scoring positions and they caused Armagh problems. So I've gone for Roscommon on that one, but I might have to revisit that one, John.
That's one to come back to then.
As you said, Cavan are showing good form, so I might change that one. But for now, I'm pipping for Roscommon.
Perfect. And then on to Fermanagh versus Laois.
I think I went this. I went the same as yourself. Yeah. I just think, unfortunately, look, it's not nice what Fermanagh are going through. Ryan McMenamin up there. I'm not sure, will they get a lot of their players back? Will they have completed their quarantine at this stage? Possibly they have. So that obviously will strengthen them compared to what they were able to bring to Clare, because I know they had only 3 substitutes named in Clare, but in fact they ended up bringing a lot more because they had completed their quarantine. So they'll probably be in a stronger position this weekend for Fermanagh, but I just think Laois will want to bounce back. They were poor against Westmeath, wasn't it? And again, my former teammate Mike Quirk, he'll want to finish off the league on a positive note. So I think I pipped for Laois on that one as well. Yeah. And
then on to the next one. Are Mayo going to continue their good form against Tyrone?
Yeah, you'd have to think so. Sorry, are Mayo at home in that one, Jonathan? Are they at home or away?
I'll double check it here because you caught me on the hop now. But I believe they're at home.
I think that was a big. Yeah, they are, because they beat Galway in Tuam, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
So I think they're at home in this one. Yeah, I think they're at home in this one, yeah. So I think that was a big sway for me. And again, not that it makes a big difference, but I just think the momentum after beating their close rivals, if they can carry that form in against Tyrone, now Tyrone will be a different proposition, and Mickey Hart will have watched back Galway and Mayo quite a few times, I'm sure, and his Tyrone team will come with a fairly defensive setup. They won't allow easy ball be kicked into the likes of Aidan Shea. They'll be doing all they can to stop the runners, but I just feel Mayo, particularly, they know that they're still not 100% safe, so they'll be going all out to win that, and I think they will. I think they'll carry on that momentum, as you said, from last weekend, and they should get the 2 points there.
Now, you caught me on the spot there. I was doubting myself. It is indeed in McHale Park.
It is in Mayo, yes.
So that'll lean towards that. The next one that we have then is Monaghan versus Meath. I went for Monaghan in this one. You go the same?
I went for Monaghan. Yeah, I saw enough from Monaghan against Kerry that they'll improve from that that outing. Plus, Conor McManus didn't
He was in
start.
brilliant form when he came on against Kerry at the weekend.
He was excellent. He looked sharp. He kicked, I think it was a point off his right foot from the right hand side. I think it was his first score actually, and it was just absolutely. He was under pressure. He did a dummy solo onto his right foot, backlift, popped over the bar. He's just brilliant to watch. He's one of my favourite forwards to ever have played the game. So I think if he starts, he's obviously going to be a big addition. And yeah, as I said, I saw enough against for Monaghan. It's on in Clonus. Meath will be happy, as we've discussed, their performance against Dublin. But I think, again, Monaghan are, they're not 100% safe, so they'll want to put that right, and I think they will. I think they'll just have enough as well for Meath on the day. Yeah,
just a bit of extra momentum and focus and desire maybe for that game, a little bit more to play for. And then the last one that we have available in our competition, I've had to go against the grain here. I've gone for, of course, Galway Dublin. I do expect a bit of a Galway performance of kind of return, but Dublin are just, you saw them last week against Meath, that they just seem to I don't know how many times I said them, do enough and get a victory, and it's hard to see anything but another Dublin victory here, isn't it?
Yeah, and both these teams obviously will be keeping, well, I think they're playing on Sunday and Kerry are playing on Saturday, so it won't really matter as such. If Kerry beat Donegal, then it'll be a dead rubber. But if there's a league title up for grabs, we don't know how the result will go in Tralee on Saturday. So if there's a league title up for grabs, it could make a real good game. I just think Dublin will have too much. Galway, absolutely, I agree 100%. Padraig Joyce will be looking for a real performance from Galway. Will it be enough to beat Dublin? Probably not. But I think the big thing for Galway, for Joyce, for supporters, will be a reaction to the heavy defeat to Mayo. I think they'll get it, but I just feel Dublin will have too much quality and should win that one.
Well, there's my on the spot kind of put on the pressure predictions gone in. You've obviously gone through and done your homework properly, and you've really done your homework and edged on. I've done mine as ever, as unprofessional here live on air. Just a great, I suppose, a bit more excitement for it really. But so yeah, anybody listen, just go on to playerpredict.com. You can select down the football league, and then the picks are there. Just click your what team you think is going to win, or there is the facility to click for a draw as well. Neither of us have gone for a draws this week. I think they're always the more difficult thing to predict. Who knows? There might be some this weekend, but
I think our picks are pretty similar. Obviously, I might revisit the Roscommon Cavan one. I'll have another look at that. But I think other than that, we've gone fairly similar. So
it was a great minds think alike. Fools seldom differ. I think I have 1 point to get on you from last week, and it was on the league table as well. So yeah, so do get involved. It's a nice, fun way, just completely free, just to come in, have a bit of crack. We must, if we get a few more people, we might set up a mini league between ourselves or a WhatsApp group or something, because I know even the two of us had a good bit of fun back and forth checking the results, and
it's great fun. It's great fun.
Yeah, so get involved.
We're going to be watching the games. Yeah, we're going to be watching the games anyway. It just gives you a little bit more, bit of crack. As you said at the start of the call, Jonathan, we can all do with a bit of crack at the moment, So
absolutely,
bring it on.
Okay, well, we might try and come back next week then, and to see how many you beat me by, and how you extend your lead at the top of the table. Championship is coming around. Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us here on playerpredict.com. As you said, if you do want to come along, just go on to playerpredict.com, and there's also a Premier League game as well, if that is your interest as well. We've just gone a little bit in depth here in the football because we have such a knowledgeable guest in our network here as well. So thank you so much, Sean, and stay safe, folks, and we will chat soon.